I never imagined that it would come to this. The sight of Max, my once sharp and fearless military dog, stumbling through the woods, his blind eyes searching for something he couldn't see. It had been years since I first met him, and in that time, we had become a team. More than just man and dog, we were brothers in arms. Before we dive deeper into this story, make sure to subscribe to our channel, give us a like, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more heartwarming, thrilling tales about our loyal furry companions. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Max had always been more than a pet to me. He was my partner. We had fought together, side by side, in countless dangerous situations, but nothing had prepared me for the day I watched him lose his sight in that explosion. I remember holding him in my arms, his blood staining my uniform as the world seemed to stand still. The pain was too much to bear, not just for him, but for me too. The military had done their part to help him, giving him the training and resources to cope with his new reality. But I knew something deep down. The man I was before the accident had changed, and so had Max. His spirit was different now. The sharpness that made him one of the best had dulled, and though he tried to push forward, it was clear he struggled. I could see it in the way he hesitated when he moved, how his ears twitched nervously as he tried to pick up on the sounds around him. But he never once stopped fighting. Not for me, not for us. That's what brought us to this moment. We were on a mission again, but this time it wasn't just about survival. It was about keeping each other alive. The soldiers we had once been, sent to help, were now our enemies. We were no longer fighting for the country we loved. We were fighting to get out alive. We had made our way deep into enemy territory. The jungle was dense, and the sounds of the helicopter overhead made it clear we were being hunted. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath heavy as I scanned the trees for any sign of movement. Max stayed close, his leash tugging lightly against my hand, but I knew he was struggling. Even the sounds of the jungle, the animals, the wind through the trees, they were overwhelming him. He had been trained for this, yes, but how could a blind dog fight against an enemy he couldn't even see? "I won't leave you," I whispered to him, as if he could hear me and understand. "We'll make it out of here together." But the truth was, I wasn't so sure. As the sound of footsteps grew louder, I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on us. I had trained for moments like this. I had faced battles that tested my every limit, but none of that prepared me for the moment when I realized I might lose him, my dog, my partner, my friend. Suddenly, the brush ahead of us rustled, and I froze. My heart skipped a beat as I crouched down, pulling Max closer to me. He could sense the tension, his body stiffening at my side. We were being surrounded. The first soldier appeared from behind the trees, and I cursed under my breath. We weren't getting out of this, but Max wasn't giving up. He let out a low growl, his ears perked. Even if he couldn't see what was coming, I tightened my grip on his leash and whispered, "Stay close." But in the back of my mind, I knew this wasn't just about us anymore. We weren't just fighting to survive. We were fighting for each other, and no matter how many enemies we faced, I wouldn't let him go. Not today. Just as the soldiers began to close in, I heard the unmistakable sound of more footsteps. Someone else was coming, and they were not on our side. The jungle was eerily quiet after the rustling stopped. I could hear nothing but the pounding of my own heart in my ears, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I could feel Max at my side, his body tense, every muscle alert. Despite his blindness, the fear in the air was thick, almost tangible, and I knew we were both waiting for something, the next move, the next threat, the moment everything would change. I could feel his presence next to me. Even if he couldn't see the soldiers closing in, he was a military dog. He didn't need his eyes to sense danger. He could feel it in the air and the vibrations beneath his paws. He knew what was coming. I could hear their footsteps now, getting closer. There was no time left to think. We had no cover, no escape, no plan B. I took a deep breath and tried to steady my shaking hands. It wasn't just my own life on the line anymore. It was Max's, too. The thought of losing him now was unbearable. "Stay close, Max," I whispered, my voice barely audible, over the sound of my own heart hammering in my chest. I could feel him nuzzle against my leg, as if reassuring me that he was still with me. I didn't deserve his loyalty, but I would do anything to keep him safe. We couldn't let them take us, not without a fight. But what kind of fight could we put up when the enemy had the advantage of numbers? The terrain, the helicopters overhead, it made it impossible to hide. The soldiers had us surrounded on all sides. I scanned the jungle, desperate for any sign of an opening, some way out of this mess. But the more I looked, the more hopeless it seemed. Then I heard something else. A noise from behind, a twig snapping, followed by heavy breathing. Someone else was out there, and it wasn't one of the soldiers. My stomach dropped. Could it be another enemy unit? Or something worse? Max's head shot up at the sound. His ears flicked, trying to pinpoint the noise. He growled low in his throat, a sound that made my spine tingle. He was always alert, always ready to fight. But this time, I wasn't sure he could do it alone, not in this situation, not with everything stacked against us. The second seemed to stretch into hours as I waited for the next move. It wasn't just the soldiers I was worried about now. It was the unknown, the danger that was lurking just outside of our limited view. My instincts were screaming at me to run, to move, to do something, but every direction I thought of led to a dead end. "Don't move," I whispered urgently. To Max, his growl softened, and he settled beside me, sensing the need for quiet. I dared to glance around, trying to spot any weakness in their formation. But before I could take another step, the first soldier stepped into view, his gun aimed directly at me. For a brief moment, I froze. I had trained for this. I had lived through it countless times, but the reality of it, the danger, the fear, it always felt different when it was happening in real life. "Don't move," the soldier shouted, his voice sharp and commanding. I didn't flinch even as Max growled louder now, his teeth bared. Then, just as the soldier was about to give his next command, something unexpected happened. Max, despite his blindness, took a step forward, slowly, carefully, but with purpose. He was moving toward the soldier. The soldier's eyes widened in surprise. "What the hell?" I couldn't believe it. Max was walking right toward him. No hesitation, no fear. The soldier didn't seem to know what to do. He looked down at Max, his gun wavering for a split second, and in that moment, I knew this was our chance. I pulled out my own weapon, but instead of using it to shoot, I aimed for the soldier's leg, forcing him to drop to the ground. He screamed in pain, but that wasn't what mattered now. What mattered was that Max had created an opening for me, a chance for us to fight back. The soldier wasn't the only one to hear the noise. More footsteps were coming, and they were getting closer. The danger wasn't over yet. The pain in. My leg throbbed with every step, a reminder of the injury I'd taken when I shot the soldier, but I couldn't let it slow me down. Not now. Max stayed close beside me, his blind eyes wide open. Despite his inability to see the danger that surrounded us, it amazed me how much he could sense, how his other senses seemed to sharpen in moments like this. We couldn't afford to waste time. The soldiers might have been distracted by our noise, but it wouldn't be long before they regrouped. We had to move. Max's leash tugged lightly in my hand as he stayed close, moving with an urgency that matched my own. Despite everything, there was still a bond between us that nothing could break. We had faced death together too many times to be afraid now, but I had to admit, there was a new kind of fear I was facing. Fear, not just for my own life, but for his. Max had been my protector, my partner, and my friend for so long, and the idea of losing him in this jungle was too much to bear. I glanced down at him, seeing the determination on his face, his body rigid as if every nerve was alert, sensing danger. He wasn't just following me anymore, he was leading me. His nose twitched in the air, his ears flicking back and forth, trying to pick up on something I couldn't hear. I was starting to believe he knew something I didn't. The footsteps behind us were growing louder, and I knew they were closing in fast. Max's growl grew deeper, more guttural, as if warning them to stay back. It was incredible how much he could communicate with a simple sound. I made a quick decision. I pulled him closer to me, keeping low against the ground, and we moved silently through the underbrush, staying to the shadows. The more distance we could put between ourselves and the soldiers, the better. But then another noise cut through the air. A voice, muffled but unmistakable. "Keep going," the voice said. It was a command, but it was different. It was almost comforting, not the harsh bark of the soldiers, but the calm, steady tone of someone used to the chaos of war. I froze. Who else was out there? Max stopped too, his body tensing, as if he recognized the voice too. He didn't growl, didn't bark. He simply stood still, as if waiting for me to make the call. It wasn't long before I saw movement. Figures in the distance, camouflaged by the dense foliage. I could see the weapons they carried, but their posture was different. They weren't soldiers, at least not the ones we had been running from. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A group of soldiers from our own unit, the ones who had been sent to rescue us. But how had they found us, and why had they been so quiet, so careful in their approach? I lowered my weapon, but I didn't feel any safer. Not yet. I needed to... "Be sure, John," one of the figures called out, his voice familiar. It was my old commanding officer, Sam. I stood there, stunned, unable to speak for a moment. I had thought we were alone. I had thought it was just me and Max against the world, but now we weren't alone. The situation had changed, and I didn't know what to think. "Is that you, Sam?" he asked again, stepping closer, his face breaking into a faint smile. "I can't believe it. I thought you were done for." I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe that help had finally arrived, but something about this felt wrong. "We need to move," Sam said, his voice urgent. "We don't have much time before the rest of them come after us." Max growled low, a clear warning, his hackles raised. I knew Max well enough to recognize when he was on edge. I wasn't sure what to do. It felt like an opportunity, but it also felt like a trap. I looked down at Max, his blind eyes staring ahead, trusting me. I couldn't let him down. As I stood there, torn between trusting my old team and running from the danger we were in, another figure appeared from the shadows. This time, I didn't recognize the face, and they weren't alone. The shadows seemed to stretch longer with every passing minute, and the weight of the decision ahead of me pressed down harder than anything I'd ever faced before. Max was still beside me, unwavering, but I could feel the uncertainty in the air. It wasn't just the soldiers or the unknown figure who had just emerged from the jungle. It was the fact that I had to choose, and whatever choice I made would determine not only my survival, but Max's as well. The figure stepped into the clearing, his face masked by the jungle shadows, but the cold gleam of a rifle was unmistakable. It wasn't Sam's team, and it certainly wasn't anyone I trusted. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice sharp, despite the tremor of fear I felt beneath the surface. My hand gripped my weapon tighter, but I kept it lowered. There was no point in making a move until I knew more. The figure didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stepped forward slowly, cautiously, as if assessing me, gauging whether I was a threat. Max growled again, a low, menacing sound that echoed in the stillness of the jungle. He could sense it too. Something was wrong. "I don't want any trouble," the man finally said, his voice rough, but not unfriendly. "But I'm here to help." I narrowed my eyes. "Help? Your team sent us," he said quickly. "We've been tracking the soldiers for days. They're not the only ones out here. There's more of them, and they'll be looking for you soon." I couldn't help the disbelief that surged in my chest. If Sam had sent them, why hadn't he come himself? Why didn't he show up with his team like he promised? And what about the others? The ones who were supposed to be our backup? What happened to them? Max took a few steps forward, his blind eyes narrowing, his body language suggesting that he didn't trust this person either. He was always the one who seemed to know when something wasn't right. And right now, every instinct inside of me was telling me that I was walking a dangerous line. The man held up his hands in a gesture of peace. "You need to trust me. We've got a safe house nearby, and if we move quickly, we might be able to get you out of here. But we have to go now." I hesitated. The thought of moving, of getting away from the soldiers and the danger, was tempting. But there was something unsettling about the situation. It felt like a trap, like we were being led into a corner we couldn't escape from. I looked at Max, and for a moment, it was as if we shared a silent understanding. Max had never failed me before, never steered me wrong. His instincts were too sharp, If he didn't trust this guy, then I couldn't either. But the thought of staying here, waiting for the soldiers to close in on us, or worse, being caught in an ambush, was almost more terrifying. How do I know I can trust you? I asked, my voice low but firm. The man's face didn't betray much. He just stood there, staring back at me, calm. You don't? He said. But you don't have much of a choice, do you? Max growled again. This time louder. My heart skipped a beat. It wasn't just the uncertainty that made him act this way. There was something else in the air, something darker. The tension between us all was palpable, and I could almost feel the noose tightening around us. I glanced around, knowing that the soldiers could be on us at any second. The jungle was eerily silent, like the calm before a storm. There was no time for second guessing. No time to weigh the pros and cons. We had to make a decision, and we had to make it now. As I opened my mouth to speak, there was a sudden loud crash from behind us, the sound of branches snapping underfoot. The soldiers, they were getting closer, and they weren't alone. The sudden crash of branches behind us was enough to make my heart leap into my throat. I whipped around instinctively, pulling Max closer to me. His body was tense, every muscle coiled, ready for action. It was clear now. Whatever I had thought, whatever choice I had made, it didn't matter anymore. The soldiers were here, and they were close. The jungle that had once seemed like a sanctuary now felt like a cage, its dense trees and underbrush closing in on us from all sides. Max's growls were low, almost a whisper of warning, but they were enough to send a chill down my spine. We weren't alone, and the figure in front of us wasn't who he claimed to be. I turned to the man, my finger tightening on the trigger of my weapon. "What the hell is going on? Who are you really?" I demanded, my voice steady but low, full of suspicion. The man had been calm before, but now I saw the flicker of fear in his eyes. He raised his hands in surrender. "I'm not here to hurt you, but they are." He gestured toward the crashing sounds coming closer. His expression shifted from calm to panic. "You need to run now." I didn't have time to argue. I grabbed Max's leash and started pulling him toward the dense trees. My heart pounded in my chest. My mind raced as I tried to process what was happening. Had we been betrayed? Were the soldiers after us, or had they simply been caught in the same trap? I felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on me more than ever. I couldn't let Max down. He had saved my life countless times, and now it was my turn to do the same. I had to protect him at all costs. As we dashed through the thick underbrush, the man's voice echoed behind us. "You don't understand. They know where we are. They're coming for you and for him." My thoughts scrambled. Who was he talking about? Was it me or Max they wanted? The idea of anyone targeting my dog, my partner, made my blood run cold. Suddenly, a sharp crack sounded from ahead. Another figure. This time, I recognized the silhouette instantly. Sam, my commanding officer, my old friend. He was standing there, a rifle in hand, staring us down with an expression I couldn't read. "Sam!" I shouted, running toward him, desperate for answers. "What's going on? We need to leave now." But Sam didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, staring at me with those cold, calculating eyes. I stopped in my tracks, confusion washing over me. This wasn't the man I had fought alongside. This wasn't the man who had always had my back. "Sam," I said again, my voice quieter now. "What the hell is going on?" He stepped forward slowly, deliberately. His eyes flicked to Max and then back to me. "It's over, John," he said flatly. "The mission's over." I felt the chill run down my spine. "What do you mean it's over? We're still alive. We can still make it." His lips curled into a half smile, but it wasn't the reassuring smile I remembered. "No, John," he said, his voice growing darker. "You don't get it. They're not after us anymore," he continued. "They're after you. They know everything." I stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. Max whined softly beside me, sensing my hesitation, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from Sam. "What are you talking about?" I asked. "What do you mean they're after me?" "I was never your friend, John," Sam said, his voice dropping to a whisper, as if it were some dark confession. "I was sent to make sure you didn't get away. And Max, he's just a liability." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. Betrayal. I had been betrayed by the one person I thought I could trust, the one person who had always been by my side, the one who had sent me into this nightmare. Max's growl deepened. His body went stiff, his instincts kicking in. He wasn't just sensing danger, he was sensing the truth. And now, so was I. Before I could react, Sam raised his rifle, pointing it directly at me. Max lunged forward, his teeth bared, but I couldn't move fast enough. The world seemed to freeze in that moment, every second dragging on forever. Sam's rifle was pointed directly at me, but there was no fear in my chest, only a deep, bone-crushing sense of betrayal. Max's growl, low and constant, echoed through the clearing, and I could feel the tension in his body, every muscle taut. As he prepared to spring into action, Sam's face remained unreadable. "You don't understand, John," Sam said, his voice filled with a cold finality. "This is bigger than you. This is bigger than all of us." I shook my head, the weight of his words sinking in. "I don't care about your game, Sam. I care about Max. I care about getting out of here alive." Max took a step forward, his body low to the ground, his eyes fixed on Sam. I could feel his loyalty, his desire to protect me, radiating from him in waves. Max had always been there through the dark days, the silent nights, the impossible missions, and now, when everything else had fallen apart, I knew he would stand by me, no matter what. "Put the gun down, Sam," I said firmly. "This isn't you. This isn't who you are." For a moment, it seemed like Sam was going to relent. His eyes flickered, just a hint of the man I once knew returning. But just as quickly, that flicker disappeared. "I'm sorry, John," he whispered, his voice tinged with regret. "I didn't want this, but it's too late now." The moment of hesitation passed, and Sam's grip on the rifle tightened again. Max's growl grew louder, more desperate, and I knew it was time. I didn't have a choice anymore. Without thinking, I lunged forward, throwing myself into Sam's path. The movement was swift, instinctual, like Max would have done in the same situation. Sam's finger tightened on the trigger, but I was faster. I knocked the rifle away just as the shot rang out, the bullet whizzing past me. Max was on him in an instant, his teeth sinking into Sam's arm, forcing him to drop the rifle. It wasn't a fight for dominance, it was a fight for survival, and Max would never let me down. "Max," I shouted, holding him back, not wanting to see Sam get hurt, even after everything he had done. Max stopped, but his body was still tense, his growl fading into a low, warning rumble. I was breathing heavily, my heart racing. I could feel the weight of the decision I had just made. Sam staggered back, clutching his arm, a look of disbelief in his eyes. "You could have killed me," he gasped. "After everything I did to you?" I shook my head, lowering my weapon. "I never wanted this, Sam, but I wasn't going to let you destroy everything we've worked for. I wasn't going to let you destroy him." Max stood beside me, his eyes softening as he nudged my hand with his head. The connection between us, the trust we shared, was all that mattered now. We had survived because of it, and we would survive this too. Sam's eyes darkened, but there was no anger in them anymore, just resignation. "You've made your choice, John," he said, his voice hollow, "and you've got him, your dog. But what about the rest of us? What happens to the people who trust you?" I didn't answer him. I didn't have to. There was nothing left to say. The only thing that mattered now was getting out of there, getting Max to safety, and moving forward. As Sam turned and disappeared into the jungle, I stood there for a moment, watching his retreating figure. The weight of everything that had happened in these past days, betrayal, fear, survival, was finally starting to sink in. Max nudged me again, his silent reminder that he was here by my side, as he always would be. It was as if he knew somehow that the worst was over, that we had made it through. The jungle wasn't the same place it had been when we first stepped into it. Neither was I. The journey had changed us both, brought us closer, tested our limits, and revealed what we were truly capable of. Max had saved my life more times than I could count, and today was no different. He had stood by me when no one else would. He had trusted me when I was at my lowest, and in the end, that trust had been what got us out. As we made our way back to civilization, I couldn't help but think about everything Max had taught me. Loyalty, sacrifice, trust. These weren't just words, they were a way of life, and they were the reason I would never give up on him. We were a team, and no matter what came next, nothing would change that. If this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and share it with a fellow dog lover who might need a little inspiration. Let's spread the love for dogs everywhere, and don't forget to tell us about your own dog's most inspiring moment in the comments below.